of the lineup.
Yeah, seriously, who's running this fucking thing? Why wasn't I fucking on the official lineup? Seriously, heads are gonna roll. Yeah, why the fuck wasn't I on the lineup?
Was not an official member of the lineup.
Yeah, seriously, who's running this fucking thing? Why wasn't I fucking on the official lineup? Seriously, heads are gonna roll.
And I didn't want to follow him around the corner because I knew he was going to blow crack dust in my face. And if y'all did not know, that's how you make crackheads.
I fucking love being under the bridge with my friends, stealing a bunch of shit from CVS. I fucking love being under...
Mayor West, what are you doing here?
I'm being a rascal and ringing people's doorbells and running away.
Then what are you still doing here?
It's my first house. I'm not very good at that.
Me! Look at me! I want you to fire me! You fucking Mark! Fire me!
Good job. Real classy, Shake.
Mind your tongue, Professor Nerd.
Subtle. Yeah. Frank, play it subtle.
Subtle.
Subtle. Yeah. Frank, play it subtle.
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 Welcome, fans and friends, and well, just window lickers. Welcome here. Welcome back. Welcome to the podcast. You know me. It is I, the voice, Joshua Joseph, here to bring you another moment with Joshua Joseph. And tonight is an exciting one. Tonight's a fun one. Tonight's a friend one. We're going to get weird. We're going to discuss some things, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I cannot wait to introduce you all to my friend. But first, before we get into it, you know what we got to do. We got to give some of the shout outs to the shows that are going to be coming up. You know, Sunday. It is an in your house party, and you need to be there. If you are not there, I don't know what you're doing with your Sundays. Well, you might be going to church. You might be doing some fun things, praising the Lord, doing all those things. Not me. I will be here hanging out with the In Your House crew. So come join me, Hypocrisy Jones, Hollywood House. And I think the man himself, Paragon, is going to be there. So come join us, come hang out. And then you can catch me Monday on the Monday Night Raw preview review show where you can hang out with me, Bubba Duke, the Bulkster, OMD, our friends from Canada who come and talk Raw with us and all the insights we have. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? I did some cool things today. I messed around with a cool little stinger that I like to make, and that's how I'm going to introduce my buddy here. So let's play this stinger, and then you'll know. We got the myth, we got the legend himself, the Sultan of the Seas, the man, Viking Storm. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. The salt of the seas. I like that.
You like that? I've been
So
working on that too.
I got to tell you something.
Yes, sir.
Paragon was there Saturday.
No way.
He was there because when I seen him, and then you said Paragon the other day, I was like, I think that's him. And then I seen in the preview here, I'm like, oh my god, that was him at Frontline Pro.
Oh, okay, yeah,
He was there in Milwaukee on Saturday.
Yeah, he was.
Because when I seen him out there, I was like, his name sounds familiar. I just couldn't remember where. And I believe it was one of your previous shows. I caught you talking about Paragon. So, what's your relationship with Paragon then?
Well, Paragon. He is a in your house contributor. He's been knowing Hollywood House for a long time. They worked at Emerge together. They've worked on quite a few projects throughout the years. And I believe he was with House when he first started. Forgive me, Hollywood out there. I forget the promotion's name, but yeah, they've been together for a while. And as of last year, we brought Paragon on for a co-host.
Oh my god, not Dave Dingle. But
Yes.
what Luna just said and she just posted though is that yeah, she took a bunch of pictures of him last Saturday.
Oh,
During
really?
his match. Yeah, his match was pretty good.
Yes.
And Luna will send the pictures to him if he wants them too.
Yeah, I'll hit him up right after this.
If you want to get his information for Luna, through Discord, she'll send the pictures. Yeah, he was there with EC3 and everything last Saturday.
Yeah. He's
yeah.
If you liked what he did out there, definitely go check out his Emerge stuff online.
I do like him as a heel. I liked him as a heel. He's pretty good.
Well, he's the champ out there right now, and he is doing some amazing things. And before we get into it, let's shout out these fans that are chirping in the chat. We got Luna herself. I took pictures of exactly what we were talking about. Yes, I'll give him the information, and you guys will exchange that. We got Dave Dingle. What's up, Dave Dingle? How are you doing, sir? The Grunmeister. What's up, Grunmeister? Watching some SmackDown. All right. Keep us updated,
Grunmeister, the promo master.
Oh, he is. I mean,
Dude.
Grun, I miss those promos. So if you ever just want to send me some mock promos, man, I'll watch them. I mean, you only have me as an audience, man. And what do we got? We got Luna saying Dave doesn't count.
Dave doesn't count.
All right. How goes it, Dave Dingle? Thank you for joining us all out here. We are going to get into it with Viking Storm. But before we do, let me give the fans out there just a quick rundown. I honestly came across Viking Storm and the Lou one night. They were doing I believe it was AEW. You guys were just kind of messing around with it. Yeah, and just kind of showing the different matches in it and having some fun. And I just started talking because, well, I love wrestling. So my question to you, because obviously wrestling kind of united us.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite match of all time. One that you can watch.
Oh, favorite match of all time.
Yeah, you got to give it to me.
Oh. Shane McMahon and Undertaker is probably one of my top favorite matches at Hell in a Cell.
Okay.
The Hell in a Cell one. When he dove off the top and nearly killed himself and Shane is dying on the ground in that table.
Yes.
Oh my god, you could see the pain. He's like catching his breath. Like I think he broke ribs, didn't he?
I believe he did.
And you could see he's in a lot of pain, and that's one of the best matches I can remember in recent years. If you ask me my favorite WrestleMania match, I can answer that one actually more easily. Which I've actually told you about is probably in recent years is the Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, the main event match. That is one of the in WrestleMania history. I'm gonna say it was even better than the matches at WrestleMania 40.
Oh,
I will say that because it was one of the best matches I've seen in a long damn time.
Yeah, it was a great match.
It was.
What match from your childhood would you say is something that you could rewatch?
Oh, that's a toss up. It'd probably be WCW days and There's a lot of good ones though. I remember all the Rey Mysterio matches all the time. He was always a great one to watch. All of his matches were really good. And I
Oh yeah.
remember as a kid, I was probably like 6 years old, 5 years old, and I remember just Ray coming out there and being pumped up and just all over the place. And it was always a great show for him. Specifically for a match, there was the one where I think Goldberg's out there and he gets ran over by the NWO and Sting comes and saves him.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I remember that was a really good match I could probably rewatch.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That's been back when I liked Goldberg. I still kind of do. I mean, I know because he kicked, what was it, Bret Hart in the face?
Oh yeah, he took Bret Hart out.
Yeah, which he's apologized profusely for because it was an accident, but
He still did it.
yeah, I know.
He will never get my forgiveness.
No.
Before we dive into more, we got Grunmeister coming in saying Bianca Belair is the first overall draft pick for SmackDown.
I'm not surprised.
Wow, that's a
She's
big,
been on a good run.
yeah, and she has been, and she well deserved too. That's awesome. I'm super stoked that she became the #1 overall pick. That's really cool.
That just means Triple H and the people in the back are seeing what she's doing. Sorry,
Exactly.
Paul Levesque.
Yes. Well, no, we could call him Triple H. We still
Yeah.
love him. That's how we fell in love with the dude.
Yeah.
Well, what made you fall in love with video games? Because I know you're a gamer. I mean, that's how we pretty much communicate.
Yeah. My love of video games actually started. Funny enough, my dad's told me stories. Him and my uncle. When him and my birth mother were together. Back in the day, they used to play Nintendo and they would like clear out like Super Mario World, like 1, 2, 3, and like they supposedly did it in like a whole like week or weekend one time.
Oh wow!
And when my dad told me that, he's like the last person I could see actually sitting down and playing games that long. So, but other than that, I'd say we had a Nintendo when I was a kid, a 64. I think it was a red one. It was the red shell one, and I remember playing The Lion King. I remember playing that in that horrifying Stampede level. Other stuff like Mario Kart. You remember that level on Lion King, right? The Stampede. Oh my god, they give me nightmares as a kid. I'm not gonna lie. And the thing is, Lion King was my favorite movie as a kid too, probably. So.
Yeah, it was a great one.
Yeah, and that gave me like nightmares as a kid, that Stampede level. But probably that and Mario Kart. I remember some Sonic. I remember having I think it was WCW Nitro or I think it was the World Tour that we had when I was a kid. And I remember having that one, which I actually found that one and I have it for our current Nintendo actually.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I remember playing that with my dad as a kid. Yeah.
Dude, I remember my uncles. My dad, he got us the regular Nintendo. And I remember one Christmas, my Uncle Scott came over and he had the power pad and they got the Olympic Games. And for like weeks on end, we played that thing. And then my dad just got out of video games until Tiger Woods and Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball came out.
Oh.
And then he picked those up and played those.
Did you know that Olympic Games is actually like supposedly worth like some good money now?
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Olympic sports games, because those are kind of rare, I guess, and certain ones are like worth a lot of money.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's like if you ever found the one of the highest paid games, or I should say cartridges, is Turok's Demo, actually. That's when demos were a thing, when they just like started, and Turok had one, and like that's one of the, I think it's Turok 2 or 1, and the demo is like worth a lot.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is that so you get deep into video games then?
I call it so I always, because I have ADHD like notoriously, and I call myself autistic because I'm pretty sure I'm autistic, and I always refer to it as the tism, when your tism kicks in.
Yep.
Which is a famous thing I hear on another podcast, and when the tism kicks in. So yeah, it's things that interest me. Like there's things Luna plenty of times I've brought up a fact that she would never know out of nowhere, and she's like, "How do you know that?" I'm like, "It's just like in my brain."
Yeah,
it's one of those tism factors where like I remember it from years ago, and it's there. But yeah,
Dude,
video game stuff. There's like that wrestling, of course, racing, sports. There's a lot of these things that I remember, and it's kind of just in my brain.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
is it fun for you to get hooked on a new thing, or is it not fun
If
just
it's
because how you have to calculate it in your head?
Yeah, because if it's something that interests me, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, I want to learn more about this. And it can be anything. He's a human internet browser.
Yeah.
So at times, yeah, there's facts that she needs to know about something. I mean, my dad's the same way though. If it's something interesting, I kind of got it from him. I got a lot of my traits from my dad. I really, really have.
Okay.
And it's something that interests you, and you're curious about. Like, I'll tell him about some things and whatnot. Like, and he'll be like, "Oh, what's that? What's this doing? What's that?" He's just like me. He wants to know.
Mhm.
It's that knowledge craving part, which I'll always like. If somebody asks me a question about something, about how to learn about something, I try to give them. If I don't have all the information, I'll try to give them other parts that have the information from somebody else or the internet. So,
Yeah.
and I like to do that.
That where's your favorite subject to dive just down into?
Oh, I mean, I'm a huge comic book fan, so there's always the comic books.
Okay.
Certain characters, video game characters, also, wrestlers, of course. And if it's something like that, like Paul Heyman's career. That's one I
Oh,
could probably always look into,
yeah.
because I am notoriously a Paul Heyman guy. I always will be. I always have been, and it's just, I mean, to me, my favorite. It wasn't even a promo, but it was kind of his promo was his Hall of Fame speech. I loved
Oh,
it.
yeah.
It was great. It was awesome to hear, and that's also like his Peacock story. If you haven't watched that, my name is Paul Heyman. Have you watched that?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really damn good, dude.
Yeah,
Like, it was really good.
he's a genius when it comes
He
to
is.
what he's built. The guy, Hollywood House. Well,
Mhm.
you know what? I'm just gonna start calling him House from now on. We have a discussion going on, but
Oh,
House is definitely a Heyman guy, and that's somebody he brings up all the time. Him and Jimmy Hart, and like
oh,
it's just amazing to me. Like when I see guys and people out there who are able to dive into these masterminds that I thought
right,
when I was a kid that I was the only one and that I knew who this man was.
right.
Because I mean, when I found out about ECW, in the summer times, I would go to a cousin's house here out in South Bend. They lived like a block away from the Notre Dame football stadium.
Oh,
So we would go over there for the summers, and he would always have all these Japanese wrestling VHSs, all the last ECW pay-per-views and things like that. So I would sit down and watch it, and Paul Heyman captivated me from a young age.
right.
Just the way he can get you to want to jump off a cliff for him.
You got a point there. He really could, because, and I've said this before. I think I may have said to Lou, and hi Lou, I see you. I may have said this previously in a before, but I will say The Rock, the way his promos were, reminded me so much of Paul Heyman back in the day when he was a manager and he
Yeah,
would do all his little bits and everything. His takes reminded me so much of Paul Heyman when he was younger. The
yeah.
Rock really reminded me a lot of, like, he seemed like he took a lot of Paul Heyman's promos and what he would say and like incorporating that into his own thing in a way. I
No,
will I will say that.
I completely agree with you on that one. I mean, you can see it. I mean, just look at him coming in there. And before we go into that, Lou, how goes it, my friend? Thank you for joining us. Um, before before The Rock became The Rock, he was definitely Rocky Maivia, and
Oh
that
yeah.
was abysmal. It was
Mhm.
like this sugar popping candy coming
Yeah, he
down
was
to
all
the
supposed to be,
ring.
yeah, like a munchkin from Wizard of Oz.
Exactly. It was horrible,
It was
but
horrible.
he came in, he put in the work, he figured out what worked, and look what we got. I mean, he has still a illustrious career going on, and
Mhm.
there's at his age, I mean, you would have figured he would have slowed down by now, but look what he did at Mania. I mean, come on. What last guy that they brought back that was one of the legends could put in the work like that? I mean, it was amazing. Even the Undertaker was nowhere near that, and
Even though he wasn't even supposed to be there.
Exactly, but
He's supposed to be Stone Cold, but
yeah, and honestly, I really think it would have rounded out the entire storyline if Stone Cold would have been the one.
Because there was such a long Stone Cold against The Rock. It was so long, it was the best. Because you got it was him against him, and then it was, well, I should say it was a trio because Triple H was always there too.
Yeah,
very true. That. It was always those three. They were all versus each other all the time. You know, who was the top guy in the company? It was literally those three all the time were the top guys. Undertaker was there as well, but he kind of came in as a top guy a little bit after them, kind of, you know, when it was I would say he was like top guy after American Badass. I think that's when he became top guy.
And plus he reinvented himself.
Oh yeah.
You know, twice before he became the American Badass, and he reinvented himself when he became the American Badass. So, I mean, for me, The Undertaker is one of the ultimate guys who adjusted for the times so he could stay in, just like Jericho. I mean, say what you want about Jericho, but Jericho adjusts his game every time he needs to.
Different personas has he had? I think I can't even count on two hands. I don't think I could.
So many.
I'm sure he's had like 20.
Dude, I remember when I was a kid. I mean, because this isn't Jericho's first run with having like multiple characters going at once, and I remember seeing Lionheart, his Lionheart character, and then I seen him on WCW, and I was like, "Wait a minute, isn't that?" And my cousin's like, "Yeah, idiot, he does both characters. Like, what's your you don't get this?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
because he brought back that Lionheart thing recently. I'm like, this seems familiar, and I'm like, wasn't this like WCW days or like early WWE, like somewhere in there?
It was like it was right before he came completely over to WCW.
Oh,
I believe he was doing it in Mexico. I believe that was his luchador type character.
Yeah, because I remember they just recently talked about that in some podcast or clip I seen on YouTube. I didn't notice that, but yeah.
He likes The Undertaker for greatest of all time.
He was born for this business, because what else could you see Jericho doing other than his music?
Yeah.
Which I do like Fozzy. I'm a fan of theirs.
And speaking of Jericho, Chris Parrish jumps in here. What's up, Chris Parrish? Thank you for joining us here. We are here with a friend of mine from the Twitch world, Viking Storm. Right now, we're talking a little bit of wrestling, getting into the fun mind of Viking Storm and all the things that kind of buzz around in his head. So you're a guy who likes to pick up new things that interest you. Has mechanics or anything like that interest you?
My dad's actually, as far as I can remember, well, off and on, but most of it, he's a contractor. So I do come from that department. You know, woodworking is my thing. I can tell you what's to my left is a stand that I built. My chair is sitting on a stand I built. So because when we moved in, it was brand new carpet, and I knew my chair would get stuck in the carpet. So I built almost like a pallet, but with no slats open. I built the pallet, took a carpet piece and wrapped it around and stapled it to it. And I built that. And that's what my chair's sitting on.
That's cool.
In the corner behind me, I built a whole corner box and took 3 pieces of 2x2 sheets and made this box over the Wi-Fi box. I didn't want the cat going in there by it and moving it and whatnot, because she liked going in that corner. And so I built that box behind me. I built her a hideaway hole thing with carpet on the inside of it. And it's like a half box thing. I built her. I built our shoe rack. I built our island out there, which is actually from a slab of a tree. And then I had this pallet that I cut in half, and it was all sanded down. That's the leg sport, actually. I built Luna's desk, actually. I built our coat racks. Yeah. It is definitely, woodworking is a thing of mine. And Luna's has helped me in here and there and stuff. Yeah, we built the shoe rack together, actually, because I did need some help with that, because they're all like 5 or 4.5, 4 foot long pieces we had for it. So they're pretty long. So I was like, I need you to hold like one end while I can hold this and like screw it together because there's no way I could do it by myself. It would have been hard to do because I had to
That's
angle the
awesome.
pieces for the sidewalls. So
Yeah. And fans, if you haven't guessed by now, and if you don't know, Luna and Viking Storm are a couple. So
yes,
that's why that's why he keeps bringing her name up.
yes,
He's just not
yeah.
stalking a rando in the
No,
chat.
no. We've been together for a year now.
Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know much about you guys, but the interactions I've had with both of you, you guys seem to complement each other very well.
Yes.
It's rare to find a guy though that is your mind goes to all these different things. You have a lot of intelligence when it comes to things, you remember things, and then you're handy around the house. Is there something you cannot do, Viking? Or
I mean, I was even in sports, I was in racing. I mean, I had multiple different interests. The one thing that I couldn't do, and I wish I could, it's because of how I graduated with the HSED. I couldn't join the military. So,
oh,
and that's actually originally what I wanted to do. And so, yeah,
what
that's the one thing
branch
I
did
guess
you
I
want to
couldn't
go?
do. Huh?
What branch did you want to go?
At the time was Air Force.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm 31 now. I was 18 back then. So yeah, that was 12 years ago. 12ish. And 12, 13 years ago, and I wanted to back then it was the Air Force I was going to join because my cousin was in it, and I was talking to him about, and he told me a lot of stuff. So Air Force kind of seemed like my thing,
Yeah,
and I want to do, I guess, something probably with communications would have been fun. I always
that's
heard
awesome.
communications is a good field to go into. I heard it in high school a lot, and so it would have been probably something with that.
I like that, man. I really
Mhm.
do. My actually little inside the game with me. My oldest son is in the Air Force.
Cool,
Yeah,
awesome.
he's he's doing his thing. I tend to try to not know too much about that situation just because, yeah, you know,
I get
it's
that. I
yeah,
understand it.
it's weird. It's weird. I never thought I'd be in this seat, but I am. So I've had to navigate it myself.
Yeah.
Um, well, going back into some of the topics that you're interested in, I know that we talked about conspiracy theories and things like that,
Uh
and we
huh.
don't have to dive deep into them, but this always interests me, especially when I hear another brother out there who's like, "Oh, I know these things," and then you type them,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh my god, he
Yeah.
knows."
Like
What?
how you're talking about them too the other day. Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
those two people.
That's a big one because those two were working together right before they died, and they were working about what's currently in the news as the whole the I'm not going to say the full thing, but the ring that's going on with Hollywood,
Yes.
I should say, is and if you look back actually like 92, 93, Mel Gibson tried to warn us back then.
Hmm.
There was that interview going around when she was seeing it, but he tried to say something back then.
Yeah, and then he was labeled as crazy, and
Mm-hmm.
all those things came out. And
Mm-hmm.
also, not only were those two working on something by themselves, there was a Indiana, oh my goodness, was she a governor? Walorski.
Yeah.
She was a part of that project too, and then all of a sudden, her car just no works no more while it's going. Weird. But
Sheesh.
anyways, to the question I had, uh,
Anyways,
what's your favorite one to dive down into?
I mean, probably the most common ones, of course, are JFK and the moon. Of course, are
Mm,
probably the most common conspiracies. Um, uh, hmm. I it differs though. There's certain ones that you like to talk about. There's certain ones that interest you though too.
yeah.
Like cover-ups like police cover-ups and whatnot, especially in my own state. I like to go into. I will say at times, I don't consider it fully conspiracy, but Jeffrey Dahmer would have been kind of like his childhood, I'd say,
Oh yeah.
because there was early on signs of how crazy he was.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
there's
I'll use that kind of as a conspiracy thing for that, is it could have been prevented very young.
yes, yes, it could have. Yeah. And isn't it interesting that a lot of the ones that are coming out today, the incidences with mass whatever.
Mhm.
That there's always a link back to now. They were on the radar of the people who were supposed to be watching them,
Yes.
and it's all laid out where, I mean, if you're going to get into it, there's a specific month with the 6th date that happened a few years ago. That was all over 4chan, 8chan, and Reddit and
Mhm.
things months and months before. And to me, what seemed to happen is it got to a point to where the people who were watching seen it, and then the glowies came in, and
Yep.
then it was an overtaking of that. Because if you would go back and you could find these, and fans, let me tell you something. Here's a little inside note. There's a website out there called the Wayback Machine. You can go to that and you can pretty much find anything that anybody's posted on social medias and things like that that have been scrubbed. There are things that you cannot find. A lot of Garth Brooks' old Chris Gain photos, you can't find those. Those he spent quite a bit of money to get those scrubbed, but there are some out there. So go check that out. You can look up a lot of things that people say. Um, it's just so bizarre. It's almost like there's there's some force that wants it all to crumble.
Right.
And I don't know, like they have to play out the superhero, the good guy and the bad guy, and then see what happens in between. And that's where we're at. And I don't know, man. Some things are getting kind of nutty out there. We
Yeah.
just had Harvey Weinstein just got in New York. His case was just dropped,
What?
but he's still in jail over in I believe he's in somewhere in Florida. I believe a jail in Florida. But yeah, his New York case got dropped.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Especially
That's
with all the evidence
nuts.
they had on that
Right?
dude.
Yeah, no kidding.
So you've brought up racing a few times on here. What did you used to race?
I was huge into dirt late models, and
Okay.
I got a late models. I've raced a sprint car one time,
Ooh,
and I'll never do it again. Because
really?
so here's a fact that people don't know about dirt racing, okay? Is
Okay.
between if you take like a quarter-mile track, between the turns, you're probably getting up to 130 miles per hour before you take the turn from each turn. If you're accelerating that much, because your torque is cranked up, you're all about gas and go. It's all about speed. And you want to keep all that wheel spin going a lot, and that's how you stay in control. Because 90% of your churning is 3 wheels and not 4. You pretty
That's
much if you race correctly, I've done it one time. Is I rode with 1 wheel off the ground the whole entire race, except for the start. If we didn't have a caution, it was my car was rigged to hold up the left front wheel so I could turn with the right at all times, and he had control with the right side the whole entire race. And it won the race. But and that was a mechanic that I got into. I get so fascinated with that, how the physics worked and everything, because it's
yeah.
just where the weights go. It was just so, and we're like, is this legal? We had to make sure it was legal from the get go. If you're because it's a safety issue first off, and they're like, if you can prove it'll work out there, go run some laps. And they watched me like, yeah, it's not a thing. You're fine. And I was like, okay. And that was the one time we did it. I was like, guys, we're never doing this again. It was
Wow.
insane. I mean, the sprint car absolutely terrified me. It was one with a wing too, because there's no wing and there's wings.
Yeah.
And oh, you're in correct me if I'm wrong, Indiana.
Yes, sir.
So I mean that's the Hoosier racing capital. So
Yeah.
you know dirt racing is big up there. That's I
Oh
mean
yeah.
sprint cars up there is huge, and a sprint car scared the living shit out of me.
Yeah.
It
I
did
had a
because their style and their control, and it's if you turn wrong, oh my god, it is a flip, and you'll die basically.
yeah.
It is like their mortality and like safety is as bad as drag racing is.
Yeah.
It is horrifying.
It's crazy. On growing up at my dad's house right across the street was we lived out in the country, and there there was a man who had this big barn, and in this barn they made skids. Well, his son he raced, and
Mhm.
he ended up the exact same car you're talking about. He ended up getting a world record back in the day. I believe it was late 90s. He got a world record for fastest lap, and
Mhm.
Hot Wheels actually made him a little Indy car, or like a little
Oh,
race car for himself for getting that accomplishment.
that's
His name was
cool.
Adam something. I forget his last name, but and it's been years
Hmm.
ago. But I remember as a kid, after they did it, they pulled up. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. They pulled up into the drive, and my dad woke us up and had us go out there and go check go check it out. He's like, you'll never be this close to a world champion again. You might as well go. And I was like, what are you
I
talking
mean,
about?
he's
It's
got a
4 in the
point.
morning.
Yeah.
It was
Wow. No, that's
but it
cool.
was a cool moment. Um, so would you, if you could, would you do the NASCAR and all that stuff?
Oh, see, Luna asked me something about this not too long ago if I'd do racing again. And I was like, there's I would if it wasn't for my back, probably.
Yeah.
My back, I have a slip disc and I need to probably have it operated on eventually and looked at. But if it wasn't for that, I would probably be back into dirt racing again.
Really? Okay. See, I did BMX when I was younger. That was the extent of my racing. But then I got into figuring out I could do jumps on that BMX
Hmm.
bike. So that's what I focused most on and kind of left the racing. But it was fun. I loved it.
Um, Actually, speaking of BMX, yeah, no, we got into that as kids. Me and my cousin did. In my hometown, actually, his name, it says his last name, and it's family. Um, it's dedicated, like he's on the plaque because he passed away in 2001, and that was before the our skate park was built. And
Oh,
so his
okay.
name is actually on the plaque because we donated and part of it, and we're part of that. And they knew about the story about how it's even in the obituary about how much him and me were actually so interested in the skate park going out. Like we'd go out there and we'd help and like help move dirt and stuff with this whole community thing. It was a whole thing to survey the land and level it. And we were kids and we were out there doing it because we wanted it as kids. So yeah, I got into BMX as well. I had pegs in the back of a Huffy, and I had so many mongooses. Okay, everybody knocks a Huffy, dude. That thing was invincible.
Oh,
That
they
bike
were.
was like titanium, dude. You
Dude,
could not break those frames.
dude,
I don't know how many
before
times I've had a wheel fall off the front. It dug the forks into the concrete, and you thought they'd be all messed up, and they're just a little bit paint chipped, and it'd be like, okay. I don't know how many times that happened. They were stuck with those. They were such a good bike,
dude,
and they were cheap.
yeah, they were too. I remember having those when I started racing, and then we got kind of, back in the early 90s, it was easy to get like if you were out there doing BMX and skateboarding stuff like that, it was easy to get a shop to sponsor you. And we had a
Well,
bicycle.
that was like the verge and the siege of it, though, too.
Exactly. And it was a good moment because we got
Mm-hmm.
Mongoose when they started coming out and like really putting racing and dirt jumping bikes out. We got a couple frames from them. I remember the best year I had, I raced a GT Pro Series, and absolutely loved that bike. But every time I went back to the dirt, I pulled out my old Huffy and I just went out there and did what I needed to on it, man.
Yeah,
Because I
and they
think
were easy to work on.
they were so easy to work on,
God.
and you could just whip those things around.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I loved the way the frame was so light. That was my favorite
It
part of it.
was, and it was so tough, though. That was the funny thing. They were so light and so tough. They're
It
probably the
never made
lightest bike
sense.
I ever had as a kid, too. Probably the Mongoose was heavy. I
Yeah,
remember it being heavy all the time. But then the Huffy, you could pick up with like two fingers. The Mongoose, you need like both hands to pick it up because it was so heavy.
yeah, they were. I
Oh
actually
yeah.
got to go out to Matt Hoffman's house one time and
Wow.
see the big vert he has out there where he would do the condor and all that. That was a
Oh man.
fun trip.
The one place I'd like to go is Pastrana Land.
Oh man, I want to go there, but I don't because I
Aren't they in
know
Indiana?
I believe they might.
Or is that Maryland I'm thinking of? He lives up in like Maryland or something, doesn't he? I remember the gymkhana they did with him.
Yeah, let me.
It was in his hometown. I think it's maybe Maryland.
It's just giving me episodes right now of where
Yeah, I can't remember.
It looks like it, but yeah, I think it is Maryland. Oh, there it says address. It's got its own freaking address. This is insane.
Because it's become so popular.
We were both wrong. Colton, New York.
Oh, his property is all the way up in New York?
That's where it said the address was.
Huh. I thought it was somewhere else.
Yeah, you would think it would be. I mean, especially with what they have to do and all the things that he's into, you would probably want as much as possible.
Yeah. That's another thing I was always into too, is dirt racing. Of course, rally racing has been a big part of my life. That's something I was always into. Yes.
So what's that like?
I never did any of it, but I always got interest in it. I always wanted to, but I'm just like, God, you gotta memorize a lot of stuff. Like racers spend, if they have a weekend of racing, it could be 3 races or 3 sprints, and they're covering over 50 miles, if not 100 almost, with those 3 races. It could be up to, depending on the courses. And there's guys that they will it's the whole memory thing. Like each track has a different memory thing. F1 racers do this too, where they lay on the floor and they visualize the track. They sit there and act like they're shifting, steering. We did it as when I was younger. If it was different dirt track, because all different dirt tracks are different. Plus, with the dirt they have on it can be different. The sand, the dirt, and so And I was like, there's a lot that goes into rally racing. I was a young kid, and that was like just when it became a thing. Like Dirt 1 and 2 were out, and I remember that. Like that was huge.
Oh yeah,
and
I remember
that. Because it was Colin McRae Rally, and then he passed away, and it became Dirt 1. That's actually the reason why it became Dirt, because it was originally the Colin McRae game, and this is when he died. See, this is a thing I tiz him on. Is I know that because Dirt is one of my favorite series of all time. Well, it's made by Codemasters, who is my favorite racing games creator of all time.
Okay.
Because they made that, and they made the greatest, to me, it's my favorite racing game of all time, the original Grid 1, which came out 360 and like PS3.
I remember that bad boy.
That game was the first game I ever played where you could do the Le Mans 24 hours. You can do the full 24 hours. I have done the 24 hours, not just once, but I've done it 78 times.
Oh, good Lord.
I have won 56 races. I've also done them online.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I see at the beginning of that, when I asked what's that like, I knew you've dived into it. So even though you hadn't done it, I knew you've read enough where it was
I have so much interest. I mean, dude, Ken Block, man. Come on. Who didn't like Ken Block?
Yeah.
He was the GOAT. He will always be the fucking GOAT of hooning and getting into trouble and doing shit you're not supposed to, He's the GOAT.
That's awesome.
He's that instigator, and he was always great at it.
Dude, you brought up comic books earlier. Anytime I hear somebody bring up comic books, I always have one question for them, because it kind of gauges how I would continue the interaction on comic books. Why haven't they done a Lady Death movie?
Oh, that'd be dope.
See, exactly.
Are we gonna have Deadpool in there?
We can have whoever.
He's got to be in there. Him and Thanos got to be in there. It wouldn't make sense.
Exactly, and that's how you tie it all together. You can have,
if that's
those...
okay. How do you know Ryan Reynolds doesn't have this in the back of his head though?
That's true. I don't know what the man's thinking,
because his big thing was from the get-go though to do him and Wolverine. That was his original plan from the get-go, to have that in one of the movies, and we're finally getting that. Finally,
very true.
And that took a lot to do. And Hugh Jackman notoriously said, "I'm not coming back for Wolverine at all."
Yeah, he did.
And Ryan talked him into it.
Well,
So,
did you also see what this also ignited?
mhm.
A specific woman was asked if she's ever going to play Jean Grey again.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because of the whole alternate universe thing. Yes,
Exactly.
the
And
Dark
wouldn't
Phoenix.
that be a amazing thing?
To have Phoenix back would be cool.
Yeah.
Right?
we
I'm not
got-
getting that wrong, right? Jean Grey was Phoenix. I'm correct, right?
Yeah, when she died, she
Yes.
comes back. Yeah. We
Yeah.
got Grunmeister giving us his 2 cents on Lady Death. Lady Death is probably
Braun,
rated.
Deadpool 3 is R-rated. Also, Punisher is R-rated. You know, Daredevil's R-rated, and those are coming back. We have video proof.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, okay, since we're on the idea of the rated R coming back and
Mhm.
that being more prevalent, how are you feeling towards WWE's move to Netflix?
I'm not gonna buy Netflix by any means to just watch Raw because I don't. I as you know, I don't have cable TV, so I catch highlights and whatnot and they'll show the segments a lot of times on YouTube all the time. They're
Yeah.
like right after within hours of the show, so I catch a lot of that. Where I'm hesitant is where is pay-per-views going to be is what I'm curious about. Are they going to stay in Peacock still, or is it all going to go to Netflix? That's
I
where I'm
don't know.
curious on it. But it's just Raw going, so SmackDown is still left out, and it's going to be on Fox, correct?
I believe so. I believe they are still in. Yeah, the Raw would be the only one.
Yeah.
Okay, fans and Viking, we got a special treat coming in here. We got one of my co-hosts, Hypocrisy Jones. He's joining us here. We're gonna let me add that. There we go. Now we got the trio up. Okay.
Your face is way over, Joseph.
Yeah, let me fix that up a little bit. So since we started talking wrestling, of course, my homie Wink hanging out in the waiting room. See, fans, you didn't even know that. You didn't even know that Jones was.
I seen
here.
his chat keep popping up. So yeah.
See, Viking knew and he kept it a secret, so he's on my team.
Yeah, he
It's your
held down
show,
really
you know?
good. I didn't know if I was gonna like able to jump in because y'all were talking like racing and some stuff I didn't know about, and I was just like, let me not add to this conversation if I can't. But now you're talking about some wrestling, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I can talk about this.
Yeah. So, how do you feel about Raw jumping over to the old Netflix coming up?
Well, I think it's a big move, man, and I think it's an international move, and I think that's what they're planning, or that's what the plan was, is get more international dollars, get more international brand deals, make more money, bro.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, but again, like what Viking was bringing up is he's asking, where are the other ones? Where's the live events going to be? Where, and I mean, I'm gonna buy whatever WWE's on. I got to.
I mean, I think we have an answer to some of that right now because, like, we know that their live events and like, especially like their PLEs, a lot of their PLEs that they put on, they're planning on putting on doing their PLEs more internationally now. So we know a lot. We know that that is the goal. That is the plan. So I probably would dare to figure that like we will probably even see more international Raws or international SmackDowns in the coming future, especially with this move to Netflix.
I mean, that makes sense. Viking, you got any input on that one?
I mean, yeah, it's just because you have all the things that, because you remember this all started with, we had first the WWE Network, which they pushed down our throats with a $9.99 for like
It's only $9.99,
2-3 years. And then that,
How
I
much
don't
of a
even know what
deal is that
happened to
now?
it.
I miss that.
I don't even know what happened to WWE Network, I don't even
Canada has
remember
it.
Oh, who does?
They use it in Canada still.
Oh, wow, that's odd. And then we have all the stuff we have now. Basically went from network to Peacock, and they kind of posted on there, which if you go onto Peacock's like main page, even if you don't have WWE, it's one of the main things that pops up, and there's different things that pop up. And I think it's a good place to stay to advertise the show and everything they have. It's a good place for more of a platform, even if you're not into it, but you know, your dad is on it, or you know, some guy's dad, and they're like, I remember watching this pay-per-view from this many years ago. I want to dive into some episodes of WCW or something, you know, and like rewatch some old stuff. It's a good place to keep that because you still have like the old audience would come back in and be like, I want to catch up on whatever nowadays. And you can still have that with old fans possibly coming back in, new fans. So it's a good place for them to stay. I'm not against them going to Raw. That's cool. That's actually really cool. If they're going to get more of their revenue and whatnot and make it better, it's odd because it's kind of nostalgic for them to stay on USA, I think.
Yeah.
And because they were for a while in there, and then they went off and they went to Spike, and then they went to back to USA. Yeah, wasn't it ECW was on Sci-Fi and so was SmackDown?
Yeah, they were.
I think it depends on where you. It maybe depends on where you live. I know in this area we had SmackDown on UPN for a while.
Yeah, I remember that.
But like they went USA to Spike, back to USA, to TNN, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Wait, maybe TNN was before Spike because I think
it TNT.
No. There was a network called TNN.
Yeah, I've heard of TNN, but I thought it was like something on TNT at one time.
It was like the Nashville network or some weird stuff.
Oh,
yeah, it was very bizarre. And ECW used to be shown on that TNN for the longest time when they were.
I remember WWE ECW was on Sci-Fi.
Yes.
Yeah,
I remember it was always on Sci-Fi, which I always thought was kind of weird for Sci-Fi to have a wrestling show. But if it was any, it would be ECW. Absolutely. It wouldn't make any other sense if it wasn't them. But because they're a rated R network, kind of, you know, they get away with that shit. Like, that's what Sci-Fi was known for, is being that channel that could show that kind of more adult stuff.
That and New Japan, I could see them doing if they got a Sci-Fi deal, they would.
Oh, yeah.
I would take it. I mean, if a network is going to give you exposure, and I mean, do these other networks that do take up WWE, do they know how to market WWE to the average viewer? No, absolutely not.
No.
But if you're going to be on their network and be the biggest thing on there, I mean, what else do people watch on the USA Network? I don't even know.
As a kid, I remember Burn Notice being on there, and that's about it.
Yeah, Burn Notice.
I remember all the reruns of Burn Notice. I remember all that all the time was after Raw.
That show wasn't bad for a minute. Suits wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't. There's some good shows on there, yeah.
Yeah.
I heard Bruce Campbell's actually an absolute asshole.
Right.
I only know this because of our mutual friend, Crystal Geology, who was one of Misfits' friends. She met him, and he was drunk, and he was an absolute asshole on stage, and he was sexist and womanizer, and everything you said to him was wrong, and his opinion was right, apparently. She gave us the whole rundown of him completely, and Crystal's not one to lie about anything either.
Well, that seems like a B-rated horror movie actor, and how he would
I mean, I still love Evil Dead.
I do
care.
too.
And I like the show, so.
Jones, we found out at the very beginning of this episode that Viking Storm and his girlfriend took pictures of Paragon last weekend.
Oh, that's my best friend.
Yeah,
Frontline Pro is my cousin's promotion. Where he was at is my cousin's thing.
Oh, okay, cool.
Frontline Pro is my cousin's promotion, actually. So that's the funny thing here is I didn't even know Joseph outside of like a couple months ago, and the fact that you all actually know a guy that came to my cousin's thing is actually really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. In November, actually they're gonna have Kurt Angle.
Oh, that's what's up.
Oh.
And I'm gonna be able to meet him at Bakersville Bar, where I actually met Hornswoggle. I met him there. I met Ken Anderson there. Ken actually signed my TNT t-shirt back in January. Ken's from Wisconsin, of course, so I know him. He was actually at the show on Saturday as well with EC3. Yeah.
That's
I would love that. That was it was there's a guy called he's in I almost said TNT Frontline Pro. His name is Coda Jacobs, and his thing is like he's the congressman of wrestling kind of. He's like Wrestling for a Better Future is this thing, I think. Right,
Oh,
honey?
okay. Yeah.
I believe it is. And he actually was a student of Ken Anderson, so he actually wrestled him. That was the big show. That was
Oh,
the big
that's
thing
cool.
there. Is he wrestled it, yeah. And yeah, EC3 was there with the NW title, or NWA, my bad. I screwed that up. And it was really cool to see the NWA title, because to me, I made this thing, I said this the other day to somebody, I think it was my dad, but to me, what the NWA title nowadays in that program is kind of what WCW was back in the 90s. Like back then, when Ric Flair got the title, he was against the Von Erichs, like that whole thing. It's kind of what that is back then is nowadays with the NWA title, like that industry and that kind of style there and that whole promotion. Cause it's like at like almost like a, I'm not, I would say national level, but it's not, like NWA has always been a really good wrestling series and they're on the brink of, they could be bigger, but they're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like they could be like TNA, AEW, but they're not there. They're just under it at times.
Yeah, and that because they got so many talented people that run through.
Oh yeah, like EC3, the champion, who was a great guy, cool to talk to.
And well, the fact that you brought up the wrestling title, join us Sunday in the chat when we go live for In Your House. I think you'll enjoy the subject that we're talking about and the fun we're going to have. It's definitely it's going to be a moment for the fans to enjoy and see exactly where a lot of our tastes lie. In the wrestling world. Well, Viking, this has been a great conversation with you, my friend. I enjoyed learning a lot with you. I honestly would like to ask you if you'd ever want to come back and
absolutely. If you want to do this sometime next week or in the coming weeks, I'm totally down for it.
That awesome. I'm glad to hear that because I think that there's a few stories that we could dive a little more into.
We could definitely.
Maybe we can prepare the audience a little more and let them know.
Right. This is very last minute. Like you said Friday, I was like, oh, okay. I thought we'd do it next week, but I'm like, all right, it doesn't matter to me whenever you want to do it.
Yeah, I usually when I get into these things, I get like you do with the thinking. So my nerdy brain goes and when I put out a post and people respond to it, I go, okay, as quick as I can possibly get them on. I got to get them on because I mean, this is honestly something I thoroughly enjoy doing. I don't find it as as work for me. I find it more as a fun time.
You get to have a conversation with someone and you get to learn about them and talk to them. It's fun.
Dude, that's exactly where I was going with that. And the fact that we learned more about you and hopefully that the buddies out there learned a little bit about you and they can maybe talk a little more different things instead of just how you're a pirate.
You that damn pirate thing.
It's my favorite thing, dude.
Oh God.
When I'm typing these things in the chat, I'm just sitting here just laughing my ass off because I cannot wait for the response from you or Luna and Lou when he reads it. It just it brightens my day. And before I do my final thing, I do want to say to you, thank you for joining me here. Thank you for taking your time out. I know that you could be doing tons more things right now, but you chose to join me and join the Window Lickers and talk a little bit, man. I love learning things about friends I talk to.
Right? No, it's the start of my weekend and this is a perfect start to it. So this is
awesome
tonight and tomorrow night are my days off, and then I have like most of Sunday until I go to work. So but this is perfect to start with, and which is why, by the way, I didn't get to catch Tuesday, you and Lou, but I did watch the next morning. I watched your VOD on Twitch afterwards. And that's what I watched it Wednesday morning. And you and Lou, and I want to say thank you for what you guys said. I did catch that part. And, of course, like I just want to say real quick, these people won't know this, but it was those 2 weeks in a row you didn't show up to TNT. And I asked Lou, I was like, hey, have you talked to Joseph at all? He's like, no. And that's when I shot you a message to check in and make sure you were okay.
Yeah.
Because it was weird that you weren't there. I told Lou, I'm like, where the fuck is Joseph? I want him in here. He's not here. It's weird. It was weird for you not to be in TNT chat. It was so odd. Because I was used to it every week. It was just weird. If you and Bulkster weren't there, it wasn't the same. Like you, Bulkster, and Grun, like you were 3 main originals. So, you know,
we were.
and if you weren't there, like it was odd.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry that it was odd, but it's kind of heartwarming to hear that, you know,
Of
someone
course,
else
man.
out there in the world was like, hey, man, this just doesn't feel right. And
no, it didn't.
And, you know, I thank you so much for reaching out. And Luna, thank you for editing the pictures. Yeah, that's more than cool with me.
She's doing it right now, actually, on her laptop over there. I'm looking right at her on the couch over there. She's actually doing it right now.
See if my wife was sitting over there, I would push the laptop to where it closed just because
she's all over there. I can't reach exactly.
Well, that's good. Well,
Yeah.
Viking, what we do here at the end, I know you don't have any like channels
No,
or
I
things
don't,
like that.
but I can tell you who is definitely Lou, of course, the Lou
Yes.
underscore. He's a buddy of mine. Of course, there's Wembley TV, there's Misfits. I don't remember Misfits' full Twitch name, of course. Black Ice Hazer 12 is another guy who I think you would actually like to have as guest too.
Oh,
Have
okay.
you ever been in Ice's chats? I don't know if you ever have, but he would be a good one for you to interview actually sometime.
I'll give him a follow and
or
start
even
watching.
Wembley too.
Yeah, Wembley would be fun.
Wembley, Misfit, you know, like those would be some good ones for you if you want to do this, you know, and I do like this. I like this very casual interview thing is a lot of fun. Like
Yeah,
this style, like it's not over the top. It's nothing, you know, it's whatever you want to talk about, which is the good interviews.
You know, the Raven interview I had was the one that made me decide I am never going to overly prep for an interview again, because there were so many times I was talking to him and I just felt, I mean, he's got an IQ that I could never touch, and I just felt like I was annoying him more than I was like
Really?
interviewing him. Yeah, but he didn't give it off, but it's just myself. And then I actually, if you listen to the interview, it's I think about like 17 minutes into it, you can hear him going through his mail as he's answering my questions, and then all of a sudden it stops and he goes, "Wait, what'd you just say?" And I had to repeat the question because it caught him off guard. And then he's like, "Okay, I'm going to give you my full attention now. Go."
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I
mean, it's big if you can make somebody stop what they're doing and be like, okay, now I got my attention of this so and so, you know. So it sounded like it went a little bit, you know, he wasn't fully into it, but he's just doing it because you asked him or whatever the situation was.
I was giving him some money.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like I said, whatever the situation it was, and then you know it turned into, oh, this guy actually asked an interesting question. I want to know more.
Yeah,
that's like I'll say really quickly. If you watch CVV, Chris Van Vliet,
okay,
he just did it's probably my favorite one because he's one of my favorite guys. Is Will Sasso he interviewed?
Ah, yeah.
Okay, Mad TV I grew up with, so I'm a big Will Sasso fan. I always was. And you know, of course, his Stone Cold, his Hulk, you know, of course, we all loved it. And if you didn't watch it, it is on YouTube, though. I would recommend you, of all people, going to watch it because it was so fucking good to listen to. It was hilarious because it's Will Sasso. It was fucking funny, dude. All his impressions, man, it was great. Oh, it was hilarious. I suggest watching that podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, I will. I'll check that out. I love
it's
Will.
So good.
Will
He's been posting a lot. Chris has been posting a lot of interviews, like weekly, like in days in a row. Like there's like a lot of new people on there in the last few weeks.
I love that. I love when content creators can go in there and just get it, and then if they can do it like, you know, consecutively, days after days, I'll eat it up.
Like he just had Dustin Rhodes too the other day.
Yeah, I someone sent me that interview.
I
was gonna watch it tomorrow morning when I was doing some editing. But yeah, I definitely want to have you back because I definitely want to ask you if you're into the Fallout series, the craze of it, all that stuff, and how that's going. But we both know one of our top buddies is out there streaming right now. He's trying to get out there and let everybody know. So fans, if you want, we're going to raid out to them here in a second. If you give me a moment, we're going to run down some socials so you all know where to go out and get us. So like I said, Sunday, we have another In Your house party, and it is going to be a discussion. You need to join in for this one because I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be one of the top episodes of this year. And it's going to continue into more episodes spanning off of it. So join us for that, and join me, Bubba Duke, the Bulkster, and OMD Monday night, an hour before Raw goes live. That is at 7 p.m. And we are going to talk a little bit of previous Raw, what happened, and what to expect coming up in the draft on Raw, and what that's going to lead for the landscape of all WWE. And then, of course, you can catch me here when I do a moment with Joshua Joseph and I bring on a friend of mine to discuss whatever they're into. There is never really a format to it, just how we do things, because that's how I do it. So you obviously are into it because you're here, you clicked the channel, you seen the thing, and you're here. So I totally appreciate all of you checking us out and being a part of a moment here with Viking Storm and me, the voice, Joshua Joseph. Also check out my homies out there, the Lou. He is live right now. You also need to check out the Boar's Nest. They are doing some gaming. I believe the Quarry is what's going on. So fans, friends, join me for the next one. Come out, find me, come be a window lickers, and always keep those windows clean. Until next time.